If there's one lesson I ever have to teach anybody about owning and running a restaurant, it's pay your sales tax and pay it on time and accurately. My restaurant in 2010, we had a nightmare on our hands. Cost us $180,000. We paid back every dime and almost put us out of business. That's because we didn't file the proper sales tax, we didn't file them on time, and we didn't pay them on time. And we were so busy and unorganized and focused on, head down running our business that we never looked at any of the stuff from the state, and it got real scary real quick. So that's the number one lesson I share with you guys. Pay your sales tax. And you want to do it real easy, real simple? Davo sales tax. I'm telling you right now, it is the number one no-brainer. Any client I have, anybody I remotely know who's opening a restaurant, before I talk to them about anything else, I tell them to sign up for Davo, because they hook directly into your POS. You do your business all day long, right? It pulls your sales tax, says this is what you owe, takes it from your bank, and then pays it for you monthly, quarterly, whatever you have set up, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about it. You can go back to running your business. You can go back to enjoying what you do best. This is not why you got into the restaurant business, is to calculate and pay sales tax. Yeah, sure, your accountant could do it, but they don't even like to do it. We had an accountant, he didn't do it. So here's my thing. Go to the website, sign up, takes 2 seconds to sign up, and at least talk to somebody. Figure out if this is gonna be right for you, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if you listen to us, if you listen to Sean's show, the fact is, every client, every person we talk to, we recommend Davo because it is such a no-brainer. I tell them all the time, I should be a salesman for you guys, because I'd walk into restaurants and be like, just sign this. You want to never worry about sales tax again? Sign this. So, Davo sales tax, the link is in the show notes. You guys check them out. It is a no-brainer. Never worry about sales tax again, and go back to doing what you love.
Hey everyone, Avi Gorin, CEO and co-founder of Marqii, and I want to talk about the customer journey for a second. You never know as a restaurant owner where your guests are truly coming from. End of the day, we do see some patterns around 2 types of search behaviors: direct versus discovery. Direct search, for an example, would be jumping into Google and saying Cali barbecue hours, right? I know where I want to go to eat, but I'm missing a key detail. I need a little bit more information. Discovery, which is the bulk of searches, is barbecue in San Diego, restaurants near me, takeout near me, right? One of the best ways to be found for more discovery searches is leveraging keywords. Reviews are basically free content for you to leverage. Think about keywords that are relevant to your brand, your location, and include as many of those in your review responses as possible, right? How can you go about doing this? Let's set up reports, utilize tools like Google Trends, find out what's going on in your area and how you can help leverage these keywords and review responses, because someone else is doing that, right? If you need some examples, you could do anything from including summer menu, gluten-free menu, leverage specific menu items like the dreaded and beloved spice pumpkin anything in your review responses, right? Let them know what's coming. Let your reviewers know something they should come back and try. And of course, if all of this just seems overwhelming and daunting because you're already running a restaurant and have enough on your plate, just leverage the team at Marqii to do this for you. We handle all of this. We're experts in this space. We can automate this so it's just another item that you know you are taking care of. Again, that's marqii.com, marqii.com. No you. However, we did recently buy marquii.com, so if you do misspell it, we got you. You'll still find us. We can still help you.
It's, some people are, it's crazy. Like some people in like when I set this up, like, are there gonna be questions? Is it okay what I'm wearing? I mean, is my lighting okay? I'm like, dude, let's just let it rip.
Just do it. We're just chatting, man.
Yeah. What's the big deal? What's the big freaking deal?
Yeah.
Well, it was good to see you in person, get to kick it for a little bit out in Tucson. What'd you think of the show?
Dude, I always love that show. This is my 3rd year speaking at it, and I mean, I just love Donald. I think that he's a great guy. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. I've had the chance to just like hang with him, and he's cool. Like I like him, and I've gotten the chance to like hear him speak as well.
Yeah.
And I think that he does such good practical things. And I love the fact that it's like, here's some strategies on how to be a good restaurateur. Here's some strategies on how to manage your life. And then here are some tactics that you can use for both.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the beautiful, that's the beauty of it, because too many times I feel like you get way too deep into just like the restaurant and how do you improve your restaurant, but it's a holistic person. And like when I look at my life, Kyle, I'm like, I don't want to just have things in my life that are helping me be a better CEO.
Yeah.
I want things that are going to have me be a better person.
Yeah.
And that's why I love reading biographies about people. Like, you know, I just finished Bob Iger's Ride of a Lifetime. Right before that, I read 1776, primarily about Washington.
Well, that's a real heavy read right there.
Oh, that one was so good though. And I read before that Unreasonable Hospitality, which is really about, you know, Will's journey. Behind me, I've got Setting the Table, which is
classic.
You know,
classic.
there's advice in there, but really it's about following this human as they're on this journey through business, not following a business in light of like, hey, happens to be a person there.
Yeah, that's because it's like, you can give me all the tactics in the world, but like, how the hell am I going to fit this in my life? Like, how am I going to make this happen? Like, it's all well and good, but tell me how the hell to do this in, you know, in the midst of everything else, right? Family, kids, travel, vacation, everything.
Yeah. I mean, and on my, I have a sticky note on my monitor, and it basically says, here are the different hats I wear and the order of importance of those hats.
And that's a big thing.
There was a quote that I think about all the time, said by a religious leader, which said, failure, no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And when I look at that, it's like, I remember I watched a video of myself. It was a selfie video taken April of 2020, and I'm sitting on the couch with all my family. And at the time, it was like, you know, I believe, I think my wife was, no, I don't think she was pregnant. Maybe. Anyway, I can't remember. But
odds are
she was probably pregnant. But I remember distinctly, there were two kids there, my wife and I, and we were sitting on this little couch, and I remember saying, everything. Oh yeah.
He has a lot to say.
He's excited to jump in.
Yeah, he wanted to jump in. Sorry, he likes to cut people off.
And I remember saying, everything that's important in this world is right here on this couch. You know?
Right.
And that, to me, having that perspective of what really matters is just so critical, regardless of everything else going on in life. You gotta get things right. And to me, it's God first, and then family, and then friends and business, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so critical to get things done in order. Otherwise, what's the point?
That's, I think, a big thing for restaurants or for anybody. And interested to hear you say that, because I feel like so many restaurant guys are reactionary, right? Like whatever comes at them, they're going to deal with. So, oh my God, there's a guest at the door. They said their food was cold. Oh, table 21, you know, this didn't work out. And oh, I got to do that. But the reality is it's not all a priority, right? Like none of that stuff. And particularly, you know, we're talking about life stuff. It's not all important, but prioritizing that stuff, particularly as a CEO, when you're trying to run a business, right? Everyone's coming at you with everything. How do you go about prioritizing that stuff? I mean, that's not easy. They're looking at you like it's emotional to them, but you're like, hey, this is really like 15 on my list of shit to do here. Right. And it's about that important and urgent matrix, and being understand what's important, what's urgent, when do I do what, when, and when things come at me, when there's fires in the backyard, because this is the thing I tell people all the time, and you heard me say this, the backyard is always on fire, Kyle. Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's always on fire.
Story.
There's always an issue. The question that you need to ask is, what fires have the risk of getting to the house? And take those fires and ignore everything else, because nothing else matters if that fire gets to the house. Right. If that spark, you know, sets the house on fire, what's in the front yard, all the celebrations don't matter. I mean, look at FTX. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you've got this company that in the front yard was just blowing up. I mean, they're doing incredible stuff, but in the backyard they had these fires brewing that nobody knew about, And what happened?
Yeah.
Those fires, in a very catastrophic way, burned down that mansion.
Yeah.
Right? And jail time pending.
Oh my God, that's a serious. I mean, somebody was hiding those fires. That's pretty wild, right? From one day to the next. I read a story about that somebody went to like buy lunch for the company the day that everything went down, and there was like, I don't know, like $100, and it didn't go through, and they were like, and they went back to the office and said, hey, the card didn't go through. They're like, that means we're broke.
No
Like
way.
they knew it was like that close that they knew that if that's the case, we're all freaking screwed here.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, talk about not paying attention to the fire.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, and as a leader, I feel like that's what you need to do. Now, the challenge is, in a restaurant, you've got, I mean, how many tables coming in? I mean, you're doing, serving, call it 100, 150 tables a night, whatever the case is. And something is going to go wrong often.
Yeah.
Actually, data shows about a third of the time there's going to be an issue with someone's meal. So, if you're looking at that scenario, that's a lot of people that you've got to go and fix. That's a lot of issues that you got to go solve. So how do you do that? It's like, do you have the right escalation set up if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 restaurants? Do you have the servers knowing what they're allowed to handle? The GMs knowing what they're allowed to handle? What gets bubbled up to you at the end of the night? How do you find out what's actually happening in your restaurants? Those are all things that I feel like are the shield to protecting your time and for you to understand what are the levels of fires that are happening in your restaurants. Because
That's the thing though. Like people wanting to know, because a lot of what that has to do with delegating, right? Like that should only get to me if, like, I don't need to know that the bread wasn't warm right in that instance. Like, I need to know if this is a continuous problem, but like, I feel like a lot of owners don't feel like, if something you started from the back of the napkin, I'm sure you could relate, multiple startups on your resume. Like, how do you even go about saying, okay, I'm willing to let this go? Like, that's a big leap of faith for a lot of people. I mean, that's a notorious thing for operators, particularly like the smaller, the one-off guys or 3 to 5 unit groups is like, I started this, I can't let my servers handle the bread issue. That's a big thing. I don't trust, like, it's constant, right? Like, how do you address those needs?
So, I mean, I'll approach this from 2 angles. One is, it is up to every business owner. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to figure out, what is your secret sauce? What is your flavor? What are the things that you cannot compromise on, right? I just had on one of the founders of Dave's Hot Chicken, and the CEO of Dave's Hot Chicken onto my podcast.
Yeah.
And when Dave, who is the one who came up with the chicken recipe, was coming up with what he wanted to do, he had these dreams of artisan rolls and, like very fancy cheeses and things that they would like bake in-house. And Armand was like, well, that's great, but if we want to scale it, that's not going to work.
Right.
Right? So what did they do? They found buns. They found buns that maybe weren't made fresh every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not called Dave's Hot Buns. It's called Dave's Hot Chicken.
That sounds like a completely different concept. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure there's a Dave's Hot Bun somewhere. Probably
somewhere.
Sounds like Miami. But but the question is, what are you really going to be known for, and how do you do that? And the second thing I would say is focus, right? So from the perspective of Ovation, it was really hard in the beginning because we didn't have a lot of focus. And I started Ovation in 2016, and we had this vision of, it was all about customer experience and engagement for brick and mortar businesses. Now, Kyle, if you were a marketing person and you go on to evaluate a website and it says customer experience and engagement for brick and mortar businesses, tell me, what does that company not do?
If they're, what do they not do? A lot.
Nothing,
They don't do it.
right?
Yeah.
It's like there's all of this stuff. There's so many different things that can mean to so many different people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't specify what we actually do. It doesn't give any direction to what we shouldn't do. And I think that's the key, is when we finally decided to focus. And when we focused in on feedback for restaurants and specializing in multi-unit restaurants, that's when everything unlocked for us as a company, because we weren't so focused on doing stuff for people. We were doing something for someone. And it was solving a problem that I was familiar with. It was solving a problem that was really salient. It was solving a problem that people had. I wasn't going around with a hammer looking for a nail. I was truly understanding what was the thing that needed to happen, what needed to get hung on the wall. And it's a very famous saying of, people don't buy drills, they buy holes. And that was for us the shift. And so in terms of how do you prioritize, I would say, if you know what your core strength and your core differentiator is, and you focus in on the things that you do best, magic will happen. Now, take a restaurant, for example. There's a great coffee shop in New York City called Gregory's Coffee. Coffee.
I know them well. Yeah.
And Gregory has, it's a great brand. They have great products. And while I don't drink coffee, love their herbal tea, love the other stuff that they do. But at one point they sold donuts. And there's a legend of, this was Gregory's grandmother's donut recipe. And guess what they did? They took it off the menu.
Yeah.
Why?
I
because
get it.
as you're expanding, you can't, to have a fryer in every single location just for the donuts.
Yep.
Right? To make the dough just for the donuts, to train your staff just for the donuts. There's all these things that was distracting from, it's not called Gregory Coffee and Donuts. It's called Gregory Coffee. Right?
Yeah.
And
so it's not scalable, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's not, and so they stuck to what they do, and they're having and they're growing well, and they have a huge love group, and they're expanding. And so I think that's something that I've learned in my career from doing a few different companies, is like that focus. And it's so hard to get into that trap. But for us, it took COVID for us to realize, like, we had to focus or die.
So that was one thing that connected for me. I'm big on like analogies, particularly sports analogies. And as a Yankee fan, we were struggling with our restaurant when they were like, we opened up, we were just pizza and salads and some pastas and no dessert. And then we started to expand, we got more seats, and it just started to get a little bit overwhelming. We were veering away from what the concept was. And we had this consultant who was working with us, and he said, be like Mariano Rivera. One pitch, one thing, more aim for that. Everyone wants to know what's coming. No one can touch it because it's so unbeatable. That's your goal. Don't be known. And he wasn't like referring to like one menu item, but just stick with one narrow thing. And it was like elevated basics on Italian. So that was it. So anything from that, my partner wanted here, I want to introduce Asian ingredients. Yeah, like you can cook that, but that's not what this concept is. Like, what are we? Yeah. We can be defined by that. So yeah, I think that's a great question, because trying to be everything to everybody is a nightmare for the person running it. And it's totally confusing to the people on the other side.
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why when you look at Ovation as a feedback platform, it's like, how do you know? How do you know what's important to the guests? How do you know what guests are feeling, thinking, tasting, especially when, a lot of our customers at this point, 40%, 60% off-prem. You can't see the whites of their eyes. You can't see, are they excited? You can't see, is their plate empty or full, right?
Yeah.
Looks like, oh, sorry. Okay, I thought I lost you for a second. You like froze.
Yeah, I'm just stunned. I'm stunned into silence. You talk a lot to a lot of groups. You're at like every trade show in the country, I think, right? Like how many times have you traveled so far this year? I mean, what is it? It's Halloween today.
Yeah, this year I'm doing, I think this year I'm doing like 34, 35 trips.
Wow. Shit. Okay, so you're out there talking to people constantly. What do you predict anything what have you seen in all these travels? Are you predicting anything that's going to really shape the industry from on the tech side, or anything really that you're seeing consistently or that you feel is building up, something that's going to shape this industry in the next decade or so?
The key is going to be helping people feel important, helping them feel understood, helping them feel known. Because as you're looking at what people are doing, AI is getting so good. Recommendations are getting so good. And something that I've seen is hand-to-hand combat is critical. That is what this industry is about. Hand-to-hand combat. What I mean by that is the average guest retention rate at the average restaurant is 30%, right? 30% of guests will come back. Now, that's like really depressing, Kyle.
Yeah.
There are things that will increase that, such as proximity, such as price, such as, LTOs and marketing, and all of these things will increase that retention rate. But here's the crazy thing. If a guest loves you, the retention rate is 60%. Now, if a guest has a terrible experience, the retention rate is 13%.
Eesh.
If a guest has a terrible experience and you respond to them, right, the retention rate goes up to 59%. But here's the thing. So not only is the retention rate almost identical to the love group if you respond to a guest that was dissatisfied, but the frequency is double that of your love group. Your frequency is 8 times more than that of the average guest. So when you look at how often people are coming in, it's not just about the value of making sure that everyone has a great experience. It's about making sure that you're catching those people that had a negative experience, right? It's about winning them back, because that group, and this is called the service recovery paradox. Someone who has a negative experience that has a proper service recovery is statistically more likely to become is going to become more loyal than a guest who never has a service failure in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But now we have the data to show it's not just a little bit more, right? It's 8 times more. And the guest that is unhappy that's coming back, and again, they're coming back 4 times more often, they're actually spending $5 more per visit as well. So they're spending more, they're coming back more frequently, and there's a lot of opportunities to win back these guests. And here's the kicker on all of this. The bar is set so freaking low in the restaurant space.
In terms of
so low.
Yeah.
In terms of in terms of following up on those guests and what it takes to win them back. It's so low. And so you have to do just a little bit to get a lot back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know that so many of these like restaurant operators struggle with the idea of even responding digitally. You know, they're like, oh, but I want them to come back in. I want to talk to them. So they just kind of ignore that digital piece. They're like, they just dismiss it as like, they're just disgruntled, or they're not going to come back in. They're never going to like us anyway, right? Do you sense that from operators, that they're kind of like, I don't need to engage with this?
People are so often, they're like, no, I don't want to, like, you know, they're idiots anyways. Like, whatever, right. Just like screw them.
Yeah.
But you got to realize that if you want to improve as a human, you ask for feedback. If you want to improve as a business, you ask for feedback. You're never going to, if you're ignoring it, that doesn't mean that it's not there, right? And that's the thing, is like, closing your eyes doesn't change if the light is on in the room or not. So just open your eyes. Be okay with the truth. Be okay with the fact that you've got some fires going on. Ignoring the backyard isn't going to make them go away.
No,
right?
It's funny. Yeah, we were talking with my daughter about that. She's 16. I know you could probably relate to this. And my wife and I were talking to her. I wish she was here. But we were talking the other night about, like, you know, sports and giving feedback, and it's not criticism, and like, hey, stop being defensive. We're trying to make you better, and this is what you want to do. And it's just, I think it's just the human nature to get defensive about something that you're passionate in, and somebody comes at you to be like, that can't be true because of this. But you're so head down in the business that you can't think that that's possibly even happening. And I think that you made a comment at the conference that stuck with me, and I've reiterated it a bunch of times to folks. It was about the cost of keeping customers, existing customers, as opposed to the cost of attracting new ones. Can you talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, I mean, it costs anywhere between 5 to 25 times more to bring in one new customer as opposed to keeping a current customer.
Yeah.
If you increase retention by 5%, profits are going to go up to 95%. You could almost double your profits by increasing your retention by 5%.
Wow.
5%. Wow. It's not that hard. Going from 30 to 35%. Why? Because they're bringing in more business that you're not paying for, because you've got to fight every single customer coming in that first time. But when you build a relationship, and this is something that I talk about all the time, is when you look at the ladder of loyalty, on the bottom rung, you have convenience. I'm coming in the first time because it's convenient enough to try out, because my expectations have exceeded my effort to go. So if your restaurant is really far away, but I hear amazing things, I'm going to make the trip out there to try it. If your restaurant's super close by and it's not that great, but it's really fast, a la McDonald's, then I'm going to swing by. I'm going to swing by to get a $1 soda. I'm going to swing by because it's convenient for my kids to go play at the playground there, right? But then when you go up a rung and you go to consistency, and you've got to nail it every single time. But then it's about connection, because at the end of the day, you're not going to nail it every single time. But when you don't, you have the opportunity to build a connection with that guest, and you have the opportunity to build a relationship with them, which makes them so much more forgiving in any issues that may come up with a restaurant. And so that's where, when you do a little bit extra, and you just need a little bit extra, that's where you build true connection. So here's some. Mind if I share some cool ideas that I've heard?
Dude, totally. Let's do it.
So, I travel around the country talking to thousands of restaurant owners. I've had on industry experts, including yourself, onto my podcast, where we're up to almost 270, 280 episodes. And here's some ideas that I've heard on how do you build that connection. What are some little things that you can do that show the guest that you care? Catering orders. If you're doing catering, first of all, do catering drops. Your manager should spend at least an hour or two a day going around and dropping off food at local businesses to do catering drops.
Yeah.
When catering orders come in, have a handwritten note. Just say, Kyle, thanks for ordering with us today. Really appreciate it. If there's anything I could do, here's my cell.
Such a small thing to do, right?
Such a small thing. Another idea is have free cookie of the day. Put out a cookie and just say, hey, thought you could use a cookie, and challenge your team to find someone who needs that cookie, and then talk about it in the staff meeting. Who gave out the cookie yesterday? What happened? Tell us the story.
That's a great idea.
Small thing. How expensive is a cookie? Not very much.
Yeah.
Another idea is, hey, is this your first time in? Great. And this is something that Via 313 does, and I think it's just such a good idea. Hey, is this your first time in? Yeah. Great. Here's how the menu works. They place their order. If they don't order the Detroit style pizza, which I had this yesterday because I love Via 313.
So
if they don't order the Detroit, guess what they do, Kyle? They have empowered their servers to bring out a Detroit style. If they do order Detroit style, guess what? They have a really good cinnamon stick. And so guess what happens? If it's their first time in, they bring out a cinnamon stick at the end of the day.
Wow, that's smart.
Right? These little things that you're doing to build the connection, to build a relationship, to build something more than just transactional, because then they're talking about you. They're leaving reviews for you. They're thinking about you. They're bringing you into their, when they have a business meeting, when they have a catering order, when they have a party, when they have a family gathering, they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the future of what we really need in this industry, is this craving for humanity that happens on the level of connection. And that, by the way, That's how you increase your retention 5%. One by one. There's no magic. There's no magic token there.
I love that. Yeah, because I think so many operators are like, man, I'm going to give a cookie away to every day. I'm going to give away a free pizza to every other table here. I'm going to lose my shirt. But that's, to me, is where it all comes down to a mindset, right? Like, this is not about, we're not talking about the cost of the pizzas. We're not talking about the cost of the cookies. We're talking about us shifting our mindset to be like, hey, we want them to come back, because if they come back, it's going to pay for the pizza 10 times over at least, right?
Well, and think about what it's going to take to pay to get a new person in that seat. Right?
Right.
So it's gonna cost 5 to 25 times more to get a new person in that seat, as opposed to, hey, let's just spend a little bit of money right now on some cost and some time in the kitchen to make a great experience.
Yeah. I think in that, I don't know if it's in that Danny Meyer book or it's just a quote that he has. It's something that we implemented in our restaurant. Was like, if somebody's like, I don't know, should I get the Pinot Grigio or the Malbec? And they go pick one or the other. Like, here's a taste of the one that you didn't select. Just so you know, like that type of stuff. Because I think that's one thing that's actually true, and it's resonating a little bit more with me now as you talk. Is all the technology and all this automations, we will either consciously or subconsciously crave that interaction with folks. I mean, for me, that's what I miss about restaurants. I wasn't worried. That's why when people were saying, when everything shut down, like, where are people going to eat? Well, I'm not going to miss that part about the restaurants. I'm going to miss, of course, I would love to go have this dish at that restaurant, but it was the sitting down, right? The interacting with the bartender, the server, other people, your wife, your husband. That type of stuff is what people really, really crave about restaurants. And I think that's what's really, I think, to your point, and I think it's really coming home here, is you got to really accentuate that. That's got to be your main focus of your business.
Absolutely. And there are ways that technology, the way I look at it is, you take Tony Stark out of the Iron Man suit and you have Tony Stark and an Iron Man suit. You put an Iron Man suit and Tony Stark together and you get Iron Man. And that's what I always talk about, like, Tony Stark your staff. You have great people and make sure that they feel cared about and empower them with processes and with technology to be better and do more. They want to do more. They want to be better. They want to serve people. And I'll tell you what, this is, again, data shows. If you empower them to make people's day better, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be happier. They're going to have increased retention with you. So if you want to make your staff happier, allow them to make your guests happy. Don't hamstring them so that they have to feel like they have to watch their back every single time that they're, giving away a soda.
Yeah.
Like, empower them to be hospitable.
That is magic. Now, I'm going to shift gears here to some topics I think that you're going to find interesting, particularly this one, because I also learned at this conference that you started at one of my all-time favorite restaurants, Friendly's, which I lived off of Fribbles and their hot dogs for probably, let's say, 4th grade to about 9th grade. So
their watermelon logs were at like every single party that we had growing up.
Oh my God, that's one that I forgot about. Have you seen this? I'll send it to you later, but Pure Wow just put an article out, and not just put it, but it was like, it's from April. 15 years later, Howard returned to revamped Friendly's to see if the magic still existed. It's a really cool article. But talk about customers and the customer experience and all that stuff that we're diving into here. I'm going to share my screen here to kind of show you this article. It is pretty, it seems like it's going to be a hot topic for a hot minute, for sure. And let's see if it pops up here. Okay. So this restaurant, charged a family after, their kids were being quote unquote too loud.
Oh,
yeah. So curious. I know, let's see if we can just find a little snippet here. Stress more with this. So basically, their kids are being loud. When they went to get the check, they got hit with a fee. Charged them an extra $50 on their bill. According to the owner, kids were too loud and had been running around outside, albeit with their parents nearby, warranting the upcharges. The not-so-welcoming restaurateur even opined that the group would be better off at Burger King, which I'm guessing is where they would have preferred to spend their time and money following the shocking experience. Is there any way, okay, this is an extreme example, but is there any way to recover from this? Like, hey, we shouldn't have done that. Like, what's the if you're advising this group, what is their next step? right? Like, this is tough. I know I'm putting you in a hot seat here, but this is like,
Okay,
when I saw this, I was
here's-
like, this is perfect for today. And this is out today. This is in Parents Magazine. It's all over the news, but this.
that is so I remember I was one of my friends posted on social media a table of where a bunch of kids were, and the table was a complete mess. It was messy underneath, everything like that. And he said, if this is how you leave your table, you shouldn't go out to eat. And I thought that was really interesting, and I've actually thought a lot about that. So when I go out to eat with my kids, I always make sure to like clean up the floor around us, and because I don't want to like leave the table like that. I mean, granted, I don't want to be publicly shamed, but also it's like, yeah, I don't want to like make it more inconvenient for the restaurant. In this case, to me, Kyle, this is quintessential solving the wrong problem. They thought, okay, the problem is we don't want, it created a negative experience for everybody else. So to compensate for that, we're going to charge the parents. Why didn't they go and get a tablet for the kids? Why didn't they go and get ice cream? Why didn't they invite the kids to help make something? Maybe you can't bring them into the kitchen all the time, but why not do something that is helpful? I heard a story of a crying baby at an airport, and there's a religious leader that was sitting there. There was someone that was crying, the mother that was definitely frazzled, and everyone else was kind of judging. And what did this guy do? He got up and said, would it be helpful if I held your baby? And he held the baby and helped out while everyone else was complaining about it. Now, sure, yeah, she could have said no, and no, I don't want some like random guy holding my baby, but
That's the thing too, yeah, for sure.
But it's like, let's come up with better solutions. Let's solve the right problems. The problem is not how much should we charge them. The problem is, the kids were restless and bored, and being the father of 4, I totally get that.
Oh
right?
God, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, like the $50, that's going to be what? Now you just paid them to go away? That just seems like such an odd thing to do.
And everybody else still had a negative experience, right? I went to a restaurant recently. I brought my whole family and one of my neighbor kids. And we went to this Mexican restaurant, and it was, it's kind of like a fast food, fast casual. And my son literally was running around the restaurant in a circle, pretending to be Spider-Man because he was so excited for Halloween. Well, guess what the restaurant did? They came out and they yelled at us and they said, "Hey, you need to leave."
What?
No, they didn't. You know what they did? They brought out a churro for every kid. That's what they did.
That's it.
They brought out a churro. And guess what my son did? He freaking sat his butt down to eat a churro.
Yeah. And
How much-
and guess where he's going to want to go every time now?
Right? Now he's thinking,
Like,
he
that's your
remembers how
spot.
good that churro
That's
was.
your new favorite spot. That's your new favorite restaurant.
Right? And that's the
Period.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's about the small stuff. And you want to know why it's about the small stuff, Kyle? Because you could fake the big stuff. But the small stuff, like bringing out a few churros for a family where they've got some rambunctious kids, that's the approach. Don't charge them for that. So what would I tell them? I would tell them to institute like a kids corner. And like, hey, we've got a kids corner now where if you bring in your kids, this is what we're going to do. And by the way, we decided to treat this family and everyone that was in the restaurant for free desserts, right? Like doing something like that to recover is what's important. But
Yeah,
in
not
the
bang them
moment,
overhead with a $50 fee like after the fact. Yeah, I thought, around here it's just north of the city. There's a lot of people do that famous crawl. They make their money, they have their kids, then they're in this 800 square foot apartment on the Upper East Side. They're like, we need to get out of here. We need some more grass. So they move up here. And the restaurants, in the more affluent neighborhoods, I think they always go wrong because there's also this dynamic here where, because it's an affluent area and the kids tend to be younger, there aren't a lot of babysitters. So if you can't bring the kids to the restaurant, or if it's not kid friendly, I can almost tell you within 10 minutes of being in a new restaurant if it's going to make it or not, right? Like if you're trying to force some New York City experience on them, it's not going to happen. So like the restaurants that say, oh, here's the kids stuff, yes, there's a kids menu, or no, actually, you know what? All of our pastas are offered in kid-sized portions. When they address it up front, I think that's a huge factor. And I think in the right markets, or in the markets that you're going after, and if you're that kind of concept, you better make sure that, you know, that those people exist there, and that your staff is trained to address those kids first. Like, address them like, hey, you like pasta? You like, you know, carbonara? You should try ours. And I think that goes a long way, instead of this definitely banging them over the head with a $50 fee after the fact.
Yeah. And if you don't want kids there, then like don't have kids menus, right? And like make sure that people know that on your online order, and be like, hey, this is a quiet experience. Like, you know, there's no kids menus, but like like address it, right?
This is not, this isn't per se, right? Like, we're going here to eat and have some entertainment and get out of the house a little bit. This is not a dining experience. All right, you want to go for some more headlines? You want to what do you, I got a couple more here for you, because there's another one here that all right, so you know Keith Lee, right? So he apparently he reviewed a restaurant in Atlanta. I have the review here, but it's about 5 minutes long, and the restaurant actually bashed him for the review. Allegedly, they bashed him, and he kind of came out and said some things here. What is your take on these influencers going into restaurants and what they have to say? I mean, how should you deal with a negative review from one of these guys? It can be so powerful one way or the other.
The negative reviews, I would say, along with any negative review, is address the person, right? Talk to them, respond to them, but like do it as a human, do it as someone who's passionate about your brand, and invite people to come try for themselves, especially if it's a negative experience, to be able to say, because, I love watching Dave Portnoy's, the One Bite, and some of these people, they're like unhinged.
Oh,
They come out just like bombs blasting. Hey, like, I hate what you do. What you do for restaurants is so bad.
One guy was wild.
Oh my gosh, right? But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, okay, great. You gave us a 7.9. Okay, cool. What could we have done better? All right. And look, this may not be the pizza for everyone, right? This may not be Dave's favorite pizza, but it is the favorite pizza for lots of people. And here's why. We invite you to come try it out, right? Like, invite people to come back in, because at the end of the day, everyone can have an experience. That's the whole reason that people love the Barbie movie and people hated the Barbie movie, is like, we could all have the same experience and walk out so differently. And to expect that everyone is going to love what you do is asinine. And for people to talk about it, it's okay, right? But it's about inviting people to come in and experience it for themselves. Because there are some people, like if my wife says, oh, I hated that movie, chances are I'm going to really like it, right?
Yeah, right. Because, Like, oh, what? Yeah.
Because my wife and I, we just have different tastes in movies, and that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to be everything to everybody. I mean, I think we haven't talked about this, but saying nothing is probably the worst.
Yes, sure. Say something, right? Yeah. Respond to your online reviews. Respond to people who say, critics who come in and give it a good or a bad score. But at the end of the day, respond to it, because you're human, and that's the best way to show that this is something that you're passionate about, that you believe in it. But do it with an eye of, it's okay, we're not for everyone, but why don't you come find out if we're for you?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I think that goes back to the Mariano Rivera kind of thing. Like, we're for this type of thing. Those kitschy like signs that restaurants have, about like, hey, if your kids aren't watched, we're gonna give them an espresso and a puppy or whatever. Those kind of like funny signs.
Yeah.
There's one that's always had an impact on me, which was like, remember, you walked in here. So like, that it says it all. Like, I didn't ask you to come here and force you to eat this pizza. You came in here, and I think you can have fun with that too. Like, come in and have the worst burger that Keith Lee said he's ever had. Because some people are like, I don't agree with this, dude. It's a big world out there. You don't have to everyone doesn't have to hinge on what Keith Lee says. I mean, he does a lot of great things for restaurants, but it's not the be all end all of your business.
I mean, and there's been these, I see t-shirts that some restaurants will do where they will post their negative Yelp reviews on the shirt.
Yeah.
I have a customer who he puts his negative Yelp reviews on the in posters on the wall.
Oh my God.
Why? Because one of the reviews that he commonly got was that the pizza was burnt. Well, it's not a burnt pizza. It's just a pizza that you cook fast in a really hot oven.
Yes.
And so there is some char to it. That's the style of pizza.
That's it.
And so he put up the reviews about it being burnt, so people had the expectation of, oh, this is different.
Oh, this
right?
is that place. Yeah, right.
And so it set the stage right up front when people walked in of what they were going to get, which I thought was like brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got an opinion out there, and you just got to find a way to, navigate your business around it, right? I mean, that's lead with hospitality. I think is always, I know we started with that. I think that's a great way to do it. Some humility, like, hey, we didn't get this right. How can we make it better?
Yeah,
basically,
it's
right?
humble hospitality, not hostile hospitality.
Hostile hospitality. You can eat it.
You were gonna eat it, and you were gonna like it.
Yeah, you're gonna like it, and you're gonna leave a good review. Goddammit. But listen. So I don't want to keep it too long. Ovation. How can people sign up? What's the best way for them to get started with the platform?
Go to ovationapp.com. Check out, there's a 2.5-minute video there and up at the very top. And it basically walks through what the Ovation platform is. Look, this is what it comes down to. If you want to find out what's going on in your restaurants, if you want to improve your online reputation, if you want to figure out the trends of what's going on without reading every single piece of feedback and without having to ask your guests annoying 50-question surveys, we're here for you, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everything that we do is month to month because I believe that I need to earn people's business every single month. I could cancel Netflix at any point. You should be able to cancel Ovation at any point.
Yeah.
With that
there you
being
go.
said, we have a 99.2% customer retention because people love Ovation. They love to grow. They love to grow in Ovation and figure out what they could do to improve, how to win back the guests, how to get more people coming in the door and more people coming back. That's what we're all about. I don't feel like you have to choose between a long survey or an online review to get your feedback. You should have something that's easier than an online review that gives you as much data as a long survey, and that's what we're all about at Ovation. And so look, try it out. Put it in your restaurant for a couple months. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, cancel. Right?
That's it. Right. And then, guys, I don't know how many of you guys are. A lot of guys I talked to already are on your platform, so that's fantastic. That's kudos to you guys and your team. But if you're not familiar, the link will be in the show notes where you guys can check out that video. But look, this is something you take off your plate. This is something that you guys can actually have implemented and that you don't have to stress about now. So. Zack, I appreciate the time. Good luck in your travels. I know you're off to somewhere we spoke about. You're always off to somewhere.
I'm leaving here in 2 days.
All right. Well, thanks for spending some time with us before you do. Happy Halloween. Any trick-or-treating plans tonight? I'm sure you
betcha.
Oh, yeah.
I'm speaking of Barbie, I
There
am
it
going as Ken.
There you go.
Knuff.
That's it. You're going to get some, you got to get the, do you do that thing where you sift through your kids' candy and find the good stuff? I know you definitely do. I saw your snack.
100%. Dad tax is real, and it is expensive in the Oates household.
Oh, yeah. I bet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a hefty one. I've seen that. That video, I still have to post of your snack bag. So, Zack Oates, CEO of Ovation, thanks so much, man. I appreciate the time.
Kyle, thanks, man.